Welcome to the Finding Families podcast, where each episode we explore different cases from our files. We identify and bring together family members with those they may never have known. Mostly we look for unknown birth fathers, where the magic of DNA brings much needed answers to lifelong searches. I'm Louise Baldock, and this episode I'll be talking to Karin about her search. Now, Karin is on the other side of the world, and the signal quality isn't perfect in places, but I hope you'll listen in because her story is fascinating. I began by asking her what it was like growing up.
I grew up with just me and my mum and not any other family members. I was born in London in 1970. My mum had moved to London a couple of years earlier from Glasgow. She pretty much lived in London, loved the London life, partying, having a really, really good time. She worked in the hotels in London as a chambermaid. She stayed on set as well. She lived in the hotels. So I assume it was this amazing life, partying and everything. And she then fell pregnant with me. Yeah, so that was my early start, and just me and her. And that's all it ever was just me and her growing up. She was a very independent woman. Nobody could really tell her what to do. No guys could really tell her what to do. Over the years, she wouldn't have a bar of it. And that was it. Never had any grandparents and never had any aunties, never had any cousins.
Just the two of you?
Just the two of us. And as long as I can remember asking, I was always told her family in Scotland had all gone. No one was left. That's how she'd say to me, no, they've all gone, no one's left. But she would also tell me stuff, like tell me about events that had happened through her life. And when she was growing up, she was born in 1938, so just before the war. She didn't know who her father was, but she'd always talk about her grandmother and the family she grew up with, which was quite a big family, and her being the baby of that family. So I knew names, I knew areas and stuff like that. So they all just sit at the back of your mind until someone brings something up and you then make the connections. I joined the Genes Reunited website to try and find anybody that knew of my mum's family in Scotland.
Right.
And lo and behold, I got an email back that said to me, hey, I think your mum is my mum. And
wow.
I remember looking at this email going, what? How is this possible? What? And we made contact and we started talking, and she was older than me. So this was Liz. She was older than me by 10 years.
Oh, that is quite a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah. So 10 years. She was adopted out in 1960 in Scotland, and always knew she was adopted, and had always been trying to find my mum or find family. And she did find family. She got in contact with some of my mum's aunts and my mum's cousins. It was so lovely to hear the information from her, because the names she was mentioning were names that I'd heard of growing up. I didn't know they existed. They were real people.
Yeah.
We then had to obviously approach my mum and say to her that Liz has contacted me, because we'd hit it off straight away. We'd only ever be on the phone to each other, but we really just hit it off straight away. And I was just so besotted with the fact that I had an older sister.
Yeah.
Made my day. I remember calling an adoption helpline before approaching my mum, because I was so nervous. I did not know what to expect. Once I'd advised them that I wasn't the child adopted, I was kind of the one that was kept. I had to ask my mum. They were really good on setting me to ask the right questions and how to be relaxed and everything with her.
That's really good, though, isn't it? That you can get that support, that you can ring up and say, I've just found out my mother's had another child and now I want to talk to her about it. I don't quite know what to say.
Absolutely. I felt silly at first phoning because I wasn't the adopted child. But once I explained to them, they were like, we have heaps of people call up and been in your position. And yeah, they were really, really good. So I sat my mum down and I said to her that somebody had contacted me and that they'd been in touch, and I'd mentioned all these aunties' names, Auntie Isa and stuff like that. And she just stared at me and I kind of went, what I'm asking is, did you adopt a daughter out in 1960? And when you had her, you gave her this name, but now she's called Liz. And she just looked at me and just went, oh, yeah. As if like, oh, did I forget to tell you? It was so blasé, and it was just the most surreal moment I will ever remember. I was just like, okay. And I think she was more shocked that this auntie was still alive. Oh, so she is around, because she'd obviously decided to cut connections with everybody in Scotland when she left for London.
He just assumed everybody had gone, and that was that. But really, some of them were still there.
Yeah, she just was just like, oh, okay, great. From that point, we made contact. We drove up to Scotland, the whole family, myself, my husband, the kids, with my mum, and we met my sister for the first time, and that was a lovely day.
Oh, I bet it was. Did she look like you?
Yes. Everybody says we are very similar. Very, very similar. I am the odd one out though now, because obviously my mum has still got her very strong Glaswegian accent, and she has actually moved back to Scotland now. And we, over the years, we've had these lovely big events where Liz's family has just, opened arms and taken us in, and just even her adoptive family have just welcomed us, and it's been brilliant. But I'm the only one with this accent. I'm the Londoner.
Yeah.
I get quite a lot of stick, which is fine. I love it. So obviously over the years, me and Liz have tried to find out who our fathers were through my mum, but she's been very tight-lipped about that. We don't have the same father. We have different fathers. But she's very, very tight-lipped, would just give us little pieces of information and steer us the wrong way with maybe names, but I can't remember. I don't know. You don't need to know. There's nothing, no need to know that person kind of attitude.
Yes.
And it has been kind of nice to go through that journey with Liz, but we're obviously making that Scottish connection again, and a lot of old friends popped up of my mum's and stuff, and extended family people. They made it very easy for Liz, because we're just outside Glasgow, where Liz was born. It was only a small town, and pretty much, it got out once that Liz and my mum had got back together and everybody was happy. Then people felt much more comfortable about talking about the past. So we then discovered who Liz's father was, and unfortunately had not long passed.
Oh,
We were
dear.
able to sit my mum down again and say to her, hey, is this true? And can you tell us any more? And she said, yep, it is, and rah-de-rah. So Liz was able to find out who her father was. And then I kept thinking that I wanted to know more about mine. So we both did a DNA test. I live in New Zealand, so I did one with My Heritage, and Liz did one with Ancestry. It was more so to find out our origins as well.
Yes.
and just, so we can just get some more information. Because even though my mum admitted to Liz that this was her father, so this was Liz's way of making that confirmed. So that was the journey to start that. And then quite a few years later, in fact, only a few years ago now, I didn't really get any hits on my heritage until a couple of years ago. And I'd had it for I'd say about 5 years, 6
I mean,
years.
it is a good database, but it's probably, I can't remember the exact figures, but half the size of the Ancestry database.
Yeah.
So there are good matches on there, particularly from mainland Europe, which you don't tend to get with Ancestry, but it is just a smaller database, so you're not being compared with so many people.
Yeah, at the time, obviously, I hadn't realised the differences between that and Ancestry. So I did say to my sister that I was going to do an Ancestry test as well. In the meantime, I'd got a hit from somebody that my heritage said it was an aunt, and it was quite a big match. But knowing that my mum didn't know her father, I wasn't sure whether the aunt was on my mum's side or my dad's side. So I had
Yes.
to, Ancestry will tell you which is your paternal and maternal DNA, where my heritage doesn't do that. Yeah, so what I did is I actually got my mum's DNA and added it to my heritage, to my account. Once it came through, this match did not match with my mum. So, yay, I was like, wow, this is a match from my father's side.
Yeah.
Finally, this is good news. So, in the meantime, I've sent off an Ancestry test as well, just because, I don't know, I just wanted to be on the same site as my sister.
Yes, of
So,
course.
then we got another little surprise from the Ancestry. We jumped on there, and my sister, she just stopped checking it years ago. She hadn't even logged back in. When I asked her to log in to check for my results with her, we discovered that she was getting messages from a gentleman in Scotland who pretty much did the exact same thing she did to me all those years ago, and was like, hey, I think we share the same mum.
Really? Wow.
Then we had to kind of do the whole approach my mum again. And it turned out that just before my mum left Scotland for England, she had actually had another child that she'd put up for adoption. Yeah, that was just like a crazy time, just getting to, just trying to fathom that she'd had 3 children in her lifetime, but I was the only one that kind of grew up with her.
So is your brother in the middle of the two of you?
Liz is 1960, Anthony is 1965, and I'm 1970.
Wow. I'm surprised in a way that when Liz turned up, that your mum didn't tell you at the time and say, actually, there is another one.
I know. And she had every opportunity to, because everything had worked out well. I took it well. Everybody was just overjoyed. So that was her chance to go, well, actually. And we would have been so happy about it.
I wonder why she didn't.
I know. They're just, I don't know. She's very hard to get any information.
Maybe she thought that it was for him to make contact in case he didn't know he was adopted. Some people do say that to me from time to time. Well, what if he doesn't know he's adopted and I exposed that by making an approach?
Myself and Liz get on with Anthony really well, and she's met him. I haven't met him in person, but we chat on video calls, and we get on really well. Out the 3 of us, he is my mum's double. It is so uncanny. It's so uncanny to look at him. It's like, whoa. then it was onwards and upwards, the search for my biological father. I'd had a match on my heritage, and I also had a decent match on Ancestry. They were very good matches, but I could not connect. I tried to contact the aunt on my heritage, and I think this is the hardest part of anybody looking for somebody from DNA, is that it's really hard to get messages back on these sites. People don't
Yes,
reply. It's the hardest thing. So
it is. I mean, I would say it's the same for us. We message people every day, oh, have you got this family in your family tree? Or can you
yeah,
tell me if you had any cousins that went to live in Canada, or, whatever it is we want to
yeah.
know. And often people haven't logged on for years and they don't look and they don't write.
I thought, yeah. So I didn't get a reply, and I messaged a few times. She'd actually done her DNA with her son, so I messaged him as well. But then when you messaged him, it said it was going to her account. So again, no reply. So in the meantime, I started working on the match with Ancestry, asking them questions, and they were brilliant. They came back 110%. They were sharing trees with me and doing this and saying, oh, where's this person? Where was you born? And throwing names at me. Oh, it could be this person. It could be that person. And it was really, really good. But one thing we could not do, we could not connect the family name from my heritage. We just could not make a link. The only link we could make is that they were from just outside Chelsea in London. They both lived there in the late 40s, early 50s, and that was the only link, but we couldn't make any link whatsoever. And I think I went backwards and forth for about a year, and then I just decided I need help. And that's when I found you.
Yes,
And
indeed.
that was it. You just did your magic, and everything that was in front of me that was just dark, you just made it clear. It was just so clear. You just brought it all to the game.
What we discovered was that your father, in fact, was illegitimate, and that these two groups of people represented his maternal side and his paternal side.
Yeah.
There was never going to be a record, really, that would have made that clear for you. You could have been asking forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Because no one knew. They were very young and nobody had a clue. So, especially on the ancestry side, because, well, both of them went off afterwards and got married and had their own families elsewhere.
Yes, that's right. So, if I can let the cat out of the bag, then what I
Yeah.
told you was that your aunt was, in fact, not your aunt at all. She was your grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
She was your paternal grandmother. And I said to you, I can't remember her name, so I won't spoil anything. Let's call her Gladys. I said to you, Gladys is your grandmother, but her son, who's taken the test as well, is only your half uncle. So your father obviously has a different dad to him, and your father's dad obviously belongs to the family that had tested on the other database, and we knew their name, and I was able eventually to work out, looking through all the sons in the family, which son it was. So then I could say to you, right, your grandma's this one over here, Gladys, and this one over here, and we'll call him Fred. They're your grandparents. So what we have to do now is find the child that they had together in Chelsea or wherever it might have been, because
Mm.
he's your father. But the difficulty is we don't know what happened to him and whether he was given up for adoption or what his name would be
Yeah.
now.
We didn't have anything.
We just would only have known his mother's name at the time of his birth, but it's London, and what any name you like in London, there's plenty of births registered in that name in any. We didn't know what year we were looking at. I think I suggested about a 5-year range that he could have been born. So we were looking for somebody born in London over a 5-year period with a a relatively ordinary British name for his mother.
Yeah.
And that was no good, was it? So I said to
Mm.
you, you'll need to get yourself a proper intermediary who can talk to people about adoption
Yeah.
and write to through the Royal Mail, and I'll get the address for you. Write to your grandmother and say, have you had a baby given up for adoption? Because if you have, that'll be my father.
Yeah. So the journey started, and I had been in contact with the Catholic Adoption Agency, and I'd mentioned to her that this DNA, the DNA path, and I mentioned that, this is brilliant. I'm about to look for intermediary, and that, and they said, they advised me that they offered that service. So I went along with them because I had created a rapport with her and everything. So we started that process, and then for a few months, she'd tried to make contact, wrote a couple of letters, got me to write a letter, as you said, and that was all sent through, but there was just no reply. Yeah, it was just headbanging. The other side, my grandfather's family were brilliant. Once I explained to them where I fitted into their little in the ancestry side, they just thought it was brilliant. But what we did establish is obviously the paternal grandfather, when he got married and the paternal grandmother got married, that we established, but it was pretty much the early 50s that my dad would have been born in. And I had to take a step back because then we realised that he would have been shy of 18 when he met my mum. My mum would have been 31 at the time.
Go.
I still
Go, girl.
I remember saying it to you and you replying that she was having her Mrs. Robinson moment.
Yes, that's right. Mrs. Robinson.
Yeah, and from that day, me and my sister, that's our code name now for my mum, Mrs. Robinson. It was very but do you know what? It says everything who my mum is, the party queen. It was shocking, but I wasn't surprised, if that makes sense. I was just like, yeah, I can believe that. So I was just a little bit shocked at first, but then I just kind of was like, oh no, maybe this is why she's never ever wanted to tell me.
Yeah.
But who knows? So going forward, trying to find this person, not knowing their first name and trying this different surnames, what he might have been born with, whether it was his mother's maiden name or his father's name, you just don't know because nobody knew anything. Wasn't getting replies from the intermediary, so I was about to try another one. I did kind of establish where the paternal grandmother was based and lived, really just by keep digging on the sites and that as well myself. And it was from an area in Essex that I used to live, weirdly enough, very, very close to her, unbelievably close before I left the UK.
That's funny, isn't it? You probably saw her
It
in the
is.
shops.
We did. I would have definitely bumped into her 100% because we were so close to each other. So it turned out that one of her son's wives had died, and on a Facebook post on a community page that I was a part of, there was a mention of a memorial and the name came up. And because I had her other son's name from the DNA match, because of that, I actually happened to obtain an address. And I was sitting on this for so long that just over Christmas, My daughter went back to the UK and she was visiting family, again, very close, literally 5-minute walk from this address. And I gave her another letter that I'd handwritten, and I put in some family photos, and I talked about the closeness of like where she lived and where I lived, and put in a photo of me and my husband and a photo of my children with me when they were younger, and just said any information you can give me will be appreciated. I just want to know how we're related. I still didn't really go, hey, you're my nan.
Right, so you didn't explicitly tell her that
No,
she was your grandmother and you were looking for a son that she'd had with some guy that wasn't her husband.
no. I just said that I know that we're very closely related and I would love to talk to you about it. Gave my email address, my phone number, obviously said about WhatsApp. Now I know that obviously she's an elderly woman, but I did address it to her and her son that took the DNA test. So I was hoping that he might reach out. So I gave this to my daughter and asked her not to post it and asked her if she could put it through her letterbox. So my daughter went to put it into her letterbox and she must have seen my daughter coming up the pathway, and she actually opened the door and asked her, what do you want?
Wow.
Can I help you? So like my daughter was face to face with who we believe is my paternal grandmother, and she just asked her name, and she said, oh, are you Gladys? And yep, she said yes. She said, oh, I've got a letter here from my mum. My mum's in New Zealand. Straight away they go, we don't know nobody in New Zealand. And she's like, no, my mum used to live here, around here. And this is from my mum. She believes that you're her grandmother. And she looked at my daughter and was like, oh, well, you better come in out from the cold. This was in December. So my daughter was like, oh, okay. So she went in and she was very lovely. It's funny though, because my daughter always says, first thing she said to her is, do you want money from me? And then she's like, no, I don't. It's just that I've got this letter here and my mum thinks that she's related to you by one of your sons. And she was like, no, I don't think she is, etc. And that. And she said, no, I know. Just, and my daughter was trying to find a way to say, did you have a son? She said, like, did you have a? So she just thought she'd come out, but she went, did you have a son that you adopted out? And she, as quick as anything, said, no, didn't adopt it. No, I don't have a son that's adopted out. Oh, okay, because I think that my mum thinks that one of your sons is her dad. And she was like, no. Wait, all my grandchildren are accounted for. Look, they're all on the wall here, kind of thing. So then my daughter said, how many sons do you have? And she turned around and said, I have 3. And that's when the alarm bells went off, as we'd only ever accounted for 2 sons. So who was the third one? What's their names? She asked. And she said their names, and we knew the other 2 names. So the first name, Rob, she said, which was her eldest, my daughter replied and said, I think Rob is my mum's dad. She kind of like was like, no, I don't think so. I think my daughter said to her, did you adopt him out? She went, no, I've never adopted him out. I had to adopt him, which was a funny thing to say. But then it kind of turns out that what had happened is that she did have him at a very young age, and he went and lived with some aunties. And when she got married, she, in her words, she adopted him back. So then he was given the marriage name.
Right, her husband adopted him, really, is probably what happened.
That's what I think more so happened. It was her husband, not her. And what was going, I found him. I found him. You know, she's going, oh my God, he's here. So the whole time we're looking for adoption records leading away from her, and he was with her the whole time, just had a different surname. So my daughter then left the letter with her and the photos and said, when your son comes round, will you pass these on? And that was in December. Then she came out. First thing she did was phone me, and we were just bouncing off the walls, the pair of us, that, oh my gosh, this is actually it. We've found him. And we didn't hear anything for weeks. And I got so disheartened. I thought, oh, she's just thrown the envelope in the bin. Then out of the blue, I get a WhatsApp message and an email, and it said, hi, my name's Karin, and I believe you're my sister. My dad is Rob. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I was ecstatic, absolutely ecstatic. I was bouncing off the wall. And what happened is Gladys had actually been booked in for a hip operation a couple of days later. So the letter had just been sitting on the side in her house, and it wasn't until she got back out of hospital and Harry and that was going around looking after her and clearing up the place. It's like, hey, what's this? And she's going, oh, that's something for your dad. And she's just gone, what? Let me look. And she was, oh my God, this is amazing. So in a snap, I've gone from being the baby sibling on one half of the family to now the oldest sibling on the other half of the family.
Yeah.
And he'd been married a few times, so there's a few of them. I think 7 in total on his
No.
side. Yeah,
No.
7 kids. So, yeah, I'm number 8. He had
Wow.
no idea. And she told him straight away, and it was brilliant. He remembered my mum. He knew who
Did
my mum
he?
was. Yes.
Oh, that's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it was
They
brilliant. It was
obviously have
so
some
good
sort of
to hear.
relationship then. It wasn't just a one night stand.
No, he knew she was, and he thought she'd gone back to Scotland. And then I had to explain to him that she wasn't in her 20s when he met her, that she was a lot older, and that was a bit of a giggle. His daughter, Carrie, said she thought it was hilarious. She said, finally, somebody got the better of him, kind of thing, in a relationship. So, yeah, that was good. I think this was early February. It's just been non-stop. I get photos sent, the family history from their side that they can tell me, and from my paternal grandmother's side, and photos to match people that I'd found on her tree, and war stories, all these things I never had growing up. It has just been constant, and I've loved every minute of it.
It's fabulous, isn't it?
So there was one thing that he was very, very grateful for. He knew that his dad that he grew up with was not his birth father, and he'd always wanted to know who his birth father was. And it was really hard because I knew.
Yes, you did. Because you'd had all those conversations with their family while you were
Absolutely.
trying to work out who he was. You knew more about his family than he would ever know.
Yep. And even up to that point, I was having his half sister messaging me going, have you found out anything yet? Have you found out anything yet? You know, it was really, really exciting, but kind of like, how do I break this news now? And so after speaking with his daughter, and she's very close with him and that, and she was like, no, Mum, he would love this. So I sent her all the information, and also sent her a photo of him that I'd got from
Of his dad, you mean? You
of his
sent.
dad, yeah.
Did you say her name was Carrie? You sent Carrie a photograph of Rob's dad.
Yes, I did. He was so grateful. He was so happy that I was able to give him that and just, be able to close his story as well, because obviously he's getting on, he's not getting younger, and he
Will he
just
be
wanted,
70 something now,
yeah,
won't he?
yeah, he is. And it's just filled a little hole in him that he's always wanted to know. And he's just, he was just so grateful for that. And I've spoke to him since online and on video calls, and he was very appreciative. I don't know if they mentioned it to Gladys. I don't know if they did, but she's been brilliant as well with me. She'll ask how I am. When Carrie goes around there, she'll go, "Oh, I've pulled some more photos out. Send these to Karen."
Yes. She'll want
You
your
know,
picture on the wall along all the other grandchildren, won't she? She'll be saying to you, get me some nice pictures for the wall in the living room.
my eldest is a midwife, and she was very happy and was very, like, she was making connections, going, "Oh, tell her so and so in the family was a midwife during the war," and things like this. And it's just brilliant.
It is
Yeah,
gorgeous.
it's just such a good outcome. It took forever. I feel like it took forever, or I think I really wish I'd started it sooner. But yeah, we're all good now. We're all chatting online and everything. But yeah, we're just planning on it now. Hopefully be heading back in the next year, and then get to have a very, very big family event.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? I wonder if has Rob met his sister yet?
I don't know. They are in touch. They are chatting. So he's got, on his father's side, he had three sisters and one brother. One of the sisters has passed, so there's two sisters and one brother. But I know one in particular, sister, is the one that's been very vocal with me and staying in touch. She is in touch with him and stuff. So I think Carrie's going to arrange a meet-up at some point soon, because they're not far from each other at all.
It's fascinating, really, the ripples you don't realise. I suppose I'm saying I didn't realise in a way, and you think I would because I do this every day, but you want to know who your father is, so we do that. But in that process, he then finds out who his father is, which means he gets to meet a whole new family. And then also through the process, and because of the DNA testing, you found another brother, and
Yeah,
he then gets to find his family. And it's
yeah,
amazing, isn't it? All the connection.
absolutely.
It's not just you find your dad, it's all of the brothers and sisters and cousins and other connections that can be made. It's really incredible.
And it's that whole concept, isn't it, of a family tree? It's just like the branches and everything just going out, and they're just reconnecting somehow.
Yes, absolutely.
It's been very, very interesting journey. And I always say to my kids now, careful what you wish for. I was an only child, and now I'm like, whoa, my Christmas card list has gone nuts.
Yes, you've now got 9 siblings. You've got
Yeah,
a grandmother for the first time.
I know. That is brilliant. That's what I love the most. I say not love the most, but yeah, that is actually icing on the cake for me, to have, a grandmother to actually say,
You didn't say about why
yep,
she didn't ever respond to any of the letters from the intermediary.
yeah. So obviously, once talking to Carrie and that, and I saying, I've been trying to contact you. And she'd actually thought it was a scam. She thought it was somebody trying to scam her. And, so she was just ignoring even the letters from the intermediary person. She thought they were a scam. So, she just thought it was all a scam.
And, I can understand that because there are scams, not usually people pretending to be your grandchild when they're not. I think that would be a very unusual scam and you'd very quickly be
Yeah.
caught out if it wasn't true. But we do tell our people, don't we, all the time to be careful. So you can see why they are. And I,
Oh,
I
100%.
write letters all the time as well to
Mm.
where people are suspicious.
Yeah, I don't think it helped that I was in New Zealand because you've got that whole, oh, I live in so
Yes, that's it. I'm a
you're related.
Nigerian prince. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so I don't think that helped. Well, it all turned out well in the end, which is brilliant. And
Absolutely. Well, I guess when she's got a girl standing on the doorstep saying, I think I'm your great granddaughter, it's
yes.
like, that's quite a long way for a scammer to go. So maybe there's
Yeah.
a bit more to this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, so it was brilliant. My daughter mentions it quite a lot that when she was sitting in there and then had realised that there was a third son, and she mentioned his name and the whole thing that no, they're not the same father and all that, and it just
Yes. Light bulb moment.
yeah, she's just like, oh my god, I've got to call my mum. I've got to call my mum. So yeah, so it was brilliant. It was all good, and yeah, and like I say, I treasure everything that's been sent to me, all the photos, certificates, some war medal certificates, because Gladys's dad was a prisoner of war in World War II in Singapore. So she's sent me all the stuff that she has on him. And so just then I'm like just looking into that side
That's
and
it.
researching all that. And it's just brilliant. I'm like a sponge at the moment. I'm just absorbing it all in.
I think that's what I often think about people who don't know who their father is or their mother sometimes. People like me, I do know who my grandparents are, my great grandparents. So I can join in conversations about what did they do in the war or where did they live or
Mm,
did they play music or whatever it might be. And you, until now, couldn't do any of that. You didn't know anything about your mother's family. You didn't know anything about your father's family. You didn't know anything about anything. And now you can say with confidence, I have a great grandfather who
yeah,
was a prisoner of war. And I can look at
I
his
know.
paperwork and I can see him on a family tree. And now you have connections around you instead of being just a kind of in on the blank piece of paper. You have a structure, don't you? A family group around.
Yep, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Even when my own children have coming round and I'm saying, oh wow, look what I found out. And this is so and so, and this is so and so. And it's just been brilliant. And it's good for them as well because in New Zealand, when we moved over here, my kids were all school age, which have been here 19 years now. And New Zealand is a fairly new country, and obviously made up of a lot of immigrant people coming over. So in
Yes.
the school system here, it's very much part of the curriculum about what they say your whānau, that's your family in New Zealand. And there's so much work. They'll ask you to do family trees, and they're always asking about where's your family from, where's your heritage. And I used to go, don't know, can't tell you. My poor
Yes.
husband, he was always that. So we go to your dad, go to your dad.
Yes.
But now my grandchildren are going through school, and when they're coming back with it now, I can go, well, actually, here you go,
Yes, exactly.
and tell them that.
All of them now, and I would
Yeah,
imagine it when we did our work, we've probably gone back about 4 or 5 generations on every branch.
yeah. It's just a game changer. It really, really is. I'm just so grateful for it, and as I said, like I don't know where I'd be if it wasn't for yourself and the work you done. It was just amazing. And I'm always kind of got my flag up going, yay, Louise is the best. telling everybody, anybody that will listen. So, and I'm very
Bless
grateful
you.
for that.
Well, it's why we
Yeah.
do the work. It's precisely for people like you who don't have answers. Because it's not okay
Mm,
to not have answers. You deserve to know. Everybody doesn't always get a happy ending, but you have to
no.
know. You have to know your story, whatever,
Yeah.
however it ends. So it's even better, of course, to hear that your grandma's sending you photographs of her parents, and
Yeah.
that you and your father and your new siblings can share some video time with each other, and one day you'll get to go back to England and meet them all. Oh, well, that's lovely to talk to you, Karen, and I know that everybody listening will have been utterly fascinated.
Hope so. No, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to tell my story.
This has been a Finding Families production with music from Lisa Hoyle. If you have a birth family search that you would like our help with, please visit our website, which is www.findingfamilies.co.uk. Goodbye.